episode 19 of the Offside Podcast. Well done, guys. 19 eps in the can since starting. This is our sports episode. Yeah. I don't know if people consider this sport. We do. It's game fishing. It's contentious, but this is an issue that's arisen in Australia. And so if you've been keeping tabs on that, Sky News issues an apology to Keegan Payne after ambushing him live in an interview. And Keegan Payne is a young Aboriginal man. He's a teen, basically. And he won $1 million in $1 million fishing competition over in Australia. And he was interviewed about it by Peter Stefanovic. And if you head on to, where is it? I think it's ABC. No, Sky News, sorry. If you head on to Sky News Australia and you watch the interview, they interview this young kid. They open up with saying, congratulations, winning this prestigious $1 million Australian fishing competition. And then the news reporter, Peter Stefanovic, talks about his past and some of the things he'd done as an adolescent. He's still a young kid, but he started bringing up things around him stealing a car. But that's like kind of besides the point. That's stuff that he's already been, that he's already atoned for. And the fact that he's brought this up, it's a young little black kid in Australia, and it was supposed to be celebrating him, and he goes straight hard into like his past, almost like 30 seconds later, if you've watched the interview. Yeah. Pretty much getting jumped live on air. And if you watch this young Aboriginal kid, Keegan, you see his face kind of change because he's like, oh, happy I've caught this fish, $1 million in my pocket, can't wait to support my family. And then all of a sudden, you're a bad kid.
Out of nowhere, too.
Out of nowhere. And you can see his face change. He's kind of like, oh, yeah. Oh. And that smile disappears. And all of a sudden, it becomes bashing. It becomes live on-air bullying. But this is bad. This is bad. Yo. What are your thoughts on this when you saw this, bro?
Oh, bro. So I didn't actually know. I saw like sort of like the image of his face, and I didn't really know about the story. And then when I clicked on it, man, like I literally dropped. I couldn't believe it. Like, what the fuck? On national television?
On national TV.
On national TV. And he was a child at the time. Like the depths that he went into the incident. You know, he told him, do you feel guilty about his business going under? You know, he started going in about the business, and then he goes, are you going to repay back some of that stuff? Like, it was malicious. It was defamatory, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. And like you said, like the poor kid, you know, we're all blind. This was a blind shot. Like, we think this is a nice celebration, awesome achievement. And in comes that colonial bullshit, eh? You know, that fucking, you know, try to bring down, you know, try to make somebody's be what he isn't. You know, a mistake that he made as a child. Which child hasn't made fucking mistakes or hasn't done anything a bit dodgy? To
give clarity to what actually happened, he stole a buggy from his employer, Bob Kavanagh, and so that's a outside situation that happened. Yeah, like he said, when he was a kid. He's 19 now, but if you read into the actual article published by SBS, they interviewed Kavanagh, his former boss, that he stole the buggy from, and they've already sorted this out. Yeah. Like, they sorted it out years ago when he was a kid. And so they've just brought it up, like, out of nowhere. And it's hilarious because the amount of, like, millionaires on Australian TV, the amount of business people that they interview, the amount of people from government that they interview, that are like a little bit of the nose candy, and you get your fair share of pedos in Australian politics as well. So it's interesting because they will never look at that stuff when they're interviewing someone successful. But here they've got, like, this looks like it was planned.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there will be people in that room saying, we've got a story. How can we make it interesting? Oh, he made a mistake when he was a kid.
Yes.
Let's talk more about that 80% of the interview rather than the 20% of, man, this is an amazing thing. A kid won this big competition. It's bad, bro.
Oh, absolutely. It is definitely intentional. Like the depth, like he knew about the business. He knew about what happened. That doesn't accidentally come out of your mouth. You don't accidentally research the issue into that depth. Okay, this was no accident. It was planned. And it is unbelievable that, he can keep his job for that. It's fucking ridiculous. And just to perpetuate that stereotype, here's someone who's done something great and successful. Let's try and spin this into a negative thing for him. And regardless of whether he apologizes or not, like he knows the damage is done. He knows he's got it out there. He knows that there's going to be a sector, and we know how racist Australia is. There's going to be a sector that are going to live by what he said. Yeah. And this guy's a criminal and all that shit. It's just unbelievable that he can get away with that shit. And it's really important because I remember former Prime Minister of Samoa, Tuilepa, went on 60 Minutes in Australia and he got ambushed. You guys remember that? Yeah. Yeah, he got ambushed and he got attacked. I remember when I did an interview here in New Zealand, they went at me hard out as well. So if you're just a lesson to young Pacific people, if you're going to do a mainstream interview on national television, international television, be prepared. Be prepared with what they might throw at you. And this is an example. They literally went to his past, found some bullshit and chucked it at him. So be prepared. You're dealing with a really powerful colonial institution, the media, that has for generations, for hundreds of years, tried to suppress anything brilliant that is Pacific or black. Okay, they are part of the colonial process, is the media. So it happened to Tuilepa. I remember he did 60 Minutes. He was ambushed. He didn't know what to say. And it was a lesson that the Prime Minister's office had to go through is, you got to be prepared. 60 Minutes Australia ambushed him with other shit that he never knew was going to be in the interview. So be prepared because you're dealing with some fucking assholes. You're dealing with racist pieces of shit and you're dealing with agendas. You're dealing with colonial agendas. Historical, they've been doing this shit for ages. We know the mainstream media images that we've had to put up with. And that's why I see it really important to have new media. And hopefully now with his following, he grows his own media now, gets his TikTok going, gets his Facebook. So you always have your say on these issues. Never let these fucking pieces of shit get the last word or the most powerful word. Always get your shots in. But, he's a young person and I thought he held himself really well. And he can walk away from that interview knowing that he's got lots of support from all over the world. And that piece of shit was forced to apologize because everybody bombarded him in the network. Absolute fucking pieces of shit. Yeah. And that's exactly what we expect of them. They are the pieces of shit. And there's another example of them being pieces of shit.
It's it's bad because I've worked in companies that have newsrooms. And so typically when they start doing news pieces, they will have journos, researchers go out and then they will collate the stories and then they'll present it back to the executive producer and then the producer will feed out. So there's a process that it goes through.
And more than one person, right?
It would have went through at least 6 to 8 people
and
before
they all
it got
would have went, yes.
Yeah. Right?
That's how fucked up this is. And you're right, that's so important to know. It's not just this dude. You sack this dude and you've got the other 5 people who went through that process who said, yes, ask him. And don't just ask him about this, go into depth on it. Ask him about that. And you're exactly right. This isn't an accident. 5 to 6 people don't make the same accident. Yeah. Okay, this is all deliberate. Everything you see on TV is deliberate. This is not a mistake. This shouldn't be taken lightly. And this is the levels of the fucking power that the media are and the racism that you have to go through. It's not just a person on TV. It's that whole process.
I like what you said about controlling your own narrative earlier with your own media. And hopefully that is a thing for him where he kind of sees us as, right, this is bullshit. Yeah. But I've got my own platforms. I've got $1 million now. Right. So I'm going to spend it with my family. And hopefully he does paint it the way that he needs to paint it. But it speaks to, this is the reason why we're here. Because we can't trust what's going out there, so we're just going to own it ourselves and make our own content. But yeah, it highlights a massive problem in the media industry, not just in Australia, but in New Zealand, in America, in Britain. That's old. This thinking is very, very old. But they're still holding on to it.
And it'll be foolish if we keep hoping that they don't act like that. Yeah. We got to accept this is how colonial media goes. We're going to be prepared for anything, okay? Yeah. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As shocking as it was, We all were like, fuck, that's them. That's what they do. They're pieces of shit. So we got to grow from that and stop expecting the media to be beautiful and delicate with us. They're not going to be nice and they're not going to celebrate what we celebrate. They're not there for that. They're there for the oohs and ahs, and they're there for agendas. So be prepared. Every time you go to the media, man, be prepared. No matter how beautiful your story is, we've just seen that they will fucking grab something from 3 years ago from a child. You know, a child misbehaving 3 years ago, they brought that shit up from out of nowhere. So take that as a lesson that you're dealing with people who are fucking evil. Okay, so be prepared. Be prepared. No matter how beautiful your story is, you think you're going to the media, just be prepared and stop being so naive. You know, we know this is what they do and we got to be ready for it.
Typically because I've done a lot of interview style pieces, I've done documentaries, but anytime I work with and this should be just common practice, but I've learned this as kind of a tool over time. When I work with talent, when I work with artists or people I want to talk to, I always, from the very start, I tell them, what are you comfortable with talking about? That's the first thing I say. I was like, what's like, you know, what don't you want to explore? And then that's the best way you can have a conversation with someone. But this is news, right? We need a story for 60 seconds and we need to find the angle. Yes. And it's just hilarious that the angle that they went with it's enough that this guy's a kid and he's won a prestigious comp and now he's got $1 million. That's a mean story. Sell it. Cool. Good on him.
It's not enough.
Bro, 50 seconds of that was, what about the past? You stole a buggy. Are you going to say sorry? You're going to pay him back money? Yeah. No. And they would have never done this to a white kid. Absolutely.
Great point.
They would have never done it to a white kid.
I bet you that dude has done worse shit. Like you said, like all the fucking pedos in parliament and all that shit, man.
Yeah.
And they would have never done that to a white kid. Absolutely. But they go after, you know, brown people, agendas and all that shit. But that's so true. They would have never done that to a white kid. Fuck.
Well, shout out to Keegan, Payne. Congratulations on the $1 million. You won. In the end, you get to walk away with your head held high and a whole bunch of Pacific Brown, black people supporting you because we know this is bullshit. Yeah. So kudos to you, young man. And it is our sports episode, and we have to talk about the Warriors because at the very start of the year we had them in our top 4, and I believe they will end up in the top 4. This is me hopeful. They've got all the tools and the team to do it, but I wanted to talk about where they're at right now, but then also as a longtime fan, shit, it's almost been 30 years and they still can't get it right. And I wanted to explore the idea of like what makes a great organization, what makes a great unit tick, what makes a successful franchise. You know, you're a fan of the NBA, you know, teams that have done exceptionally well, the organizations that have done well. You've seen it yourself in rugby. Even in rugby league, you've got a team like Melbourne Storm that have a phenomenal system. Sydney Roosters. Penrith now. For the longest time, actually, Penrith have been great. But why are the Warriors like this? Because, like, if it's about talent, we've got all the talent in this country, in the Pacific too. Yeah. They've got guys like Solomon Akata, Conrad Arau, so they've latched onto the Pacific Islands as well. But then also your player base here. So it's not a matter about talent. I don't think it's a matter about our coaches. I think our coaches are really good. They've been quite flippant with the CEOs over the past couple of years. Our fans are great.
Yep.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know, but the Warriors have lost, 4 games in a row, right?
So they've lost 3, but they tied 1 that they should have lost. So they haven't won in a month. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I was going through the stats of the last game, and I think they missed like 10 more tackles in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And you see that last try they scored, it was like 2 dudes missing a tackle on a guy who just ran straight. So that loss can be sort of the missed tackles.
Right.
And then I looked at the stats of the Titans game, and I think Titans had a really good completion rate. Like their sets was in the 90s, Warriors was like low 80s. So that was a close game too. There was like 1 or 2 points. So again, you could attribute that loss to that, not being able to build pressure. And then there was a game against the Dragons. They lost that game. And if you watch that game, it just looked like they weren't there.
They got pummeled.
Yeah. And there was that play by, is it Lomax?
Yeah. The fullback, yeah.
Yeah, there was that play at, right after half time where it was a bomb, 50-50 ball, and he went for it. And he got it. He scored an amazing try. And then you think about all the friendly bombs that Sean Johnson does. And, when they chase, it's like they're chasing to sort of like let him catch it.
Yeah.
Then we'll tackle. And so I don't know, man.
That's a great point. That's like when you talked about Lomax, that's a risk versus reward thing, right?
It's a high risk, high reward, but it also showed like he wanted that shit,
Yeah.
He put it on the line. He wanted that shit. And Sean Johnson like puts up a lot. He does a lot of bombs that land about 10 or 20 meters outside from the try line, and no one ever runs hard enough to get themselves into
contest.
Yeah, to contest. So I don't know. Maybe that's their strategy, but when I watch it, it just feels a bit flat. They're very good in their setup. They set up really well. They run through their phase play really well. They got, the out the back plays and that. But it's like the same thing,
Yeah.
It sort of misses. When I watched the St. George game, the St. George just looked hungry. They were all over the place, offloads and shit, trying shit. And I think right now the Warriors attack is just a bit bland at the moment. Really good structured play, but it's really structured.
Overly structured?
Yeah, I think I don't like this. So what do I know about league? But I know about space, and I don't know why when they come across on the attack, like their wingers are really narrow. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And they're running like all three guys together, and they've got a lot of space to use, but they're coming across narrow.
It's quite predictable.
Yeah, it's really predictable, really easy. Whereas opposed, if you have a winger starting wide, you got that option to kick, throw a long pass, but it stretches the defense a bit.
Yeah.
It forces them to play a bit wider, which gives everyone a bit more space to work with.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because that's, I guess, one of the, I've been watching the games with my brother and he was like, he keeps saying like everything's predictable because that play was what made them successful last year.
Right.
So they were running around teams with those plays.
Right.
But as a team, you adapt, right? So they would have looked at that and go, okay, we're going to shut that down. And then it was only until they started attacking the middle they had success. So it's like there seems like they're reliant on this one set of style of play.
Yes.
And then when it stops, they don't know what to do.
You're right. And they've perfected it. Like, it looks really good. It's really structured. Everyone's running this space, running their lines really good. But yeah, that's what they do. So there were a couple of times where they kick it in goal and they have a repeat set, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same shit. And they're not scoring. They're not even coming close to scoring, but the structure looks good. It looks really good. But they got some personnel changes. Last year they had a big Māori guy, I think, number 12.
Niakore.
Yeah, where's he gone?
He's injured.
Oh,
okay. He's a beast.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. And
it's like they're stacked. They're such a stacked team. They got Queenslanders. They've got former New South Wales players.
But this is NRL. This is professional. This is high echelon. So the margins are really small. So when you have a game where you miss 10 tackles, that's probably going to be the difference. When you have a game where the other team's completing 9 more sets, then you're probably going to lose the game because the margins are so small.
I was going to say the competition's it's tough.
It's hard. It's a really hard competition. But you make a great point. How can Penrith win 3 premierships in a row?
Yeah.
And even this year, I thought they were going to be shit after 3 premierships. They're fucking playing awesome.
Yeah.
Like, how do these teams manage to play awesome in such a hard competition? It's so cutthroat. I reckon the NRL standard is higher than World Rugby standard. There's all these teams that can win on their day.
Yeah.
And I think with the Warriors, to be honest, I think it's just a small tweaking. And I don't think they need to panic. The good thing, if there is a silver lining out of this, is that it's the first half of the season. Last year, the Knights went on a massive run. They had like fucking 12 games in a row or something. And they clicked. And they have the personnel. They got some really good players last year. I think they lost their winger to the Roosters this year.
That's right, Dean Young. I think it is, Dean Young.
But they clicked, and sometimes in the season you can find yourself. So And it's just a small thing. I think the Warriors have their structured play down locked.
Yeah.
Perhaps they can run a few plays where the winger does stand out wide, just gives them that, stretches the defense a bit more. But their structured play looks nice. I think it's just a little tweak. Maybe Sean Johnson's got to look for himself a bit more. Maybe the 6.
It's Te Mare Martin.
Yeah, I think maybe they need a bit.
But he's taking over the I forgot the name of the
the
original
Balangi guy. Yeah, he's
yeah.
really good. But maybe
Metcalf, Luke Metcalf.
Yeah, Metcalf is really good because he looks. You got to be a threat on ball yourself. You can't deliver all the time.
The number 6 is similar to like a 12A in rugby league, like.
But sometimes 12s get too much into passing.
Right. Yeah.
And in order to give them space, you got to be a threat. That's why I really like Ezra Mam.
Yeah.
Like he's a ball-on threat. Like you still got to have your fast. And this is where I think they Manly failed with Schuster, is they try to play him in a playmaker spot, but he just doesn't have the speed to be a threat.
To keep up.
Yeah, to be a threat in that position. Once you're a threat yourself, you hold defenders, and that gives more space for.
The Schuster one's interesting because he really, really wanted to be a 6.
Yeah, everyone wants to be a 6.
No
one wants to truck it up and get smashed all the time.
Yeah.
And he's awesome skill-wise, but he just doesn't have that speed that a modern-day 7 and 6 should have.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to score length of the field tries now, and bro, he's unbelievable now.
And they're looking at potentially having him in the Origin team.
Ahead of Munster.
Which is massive because Munster's been the incumbent for the past couple of years. Let's look at the organisation because, I've talked about some successful sporting franchises. Probably the closest one in New Zealand at club level would be the Crusaders.
Yes.
If you look at the NFL, it would probably be New England Patriots. For a time in NBA, it was the Lakers. They had but what makes an organization click? Like top down, is everything sync? Like what have you seen?
No, I don't think everything syncs, but that's how good these business setups are, and the personnel you have is that they expect things not to sync, not to be in sync. They're able to go with adapt, and you're dealing with a big group of people when you're dealing with players. No player thinks the same. No player's in the same. You got dudes who are single who want to party, and then you got dudes who have families, and so you got to try. And then you got dudes from different parts of the world. So in my rugby team, so I think it's easier to have all your players based in New Zealand. So when I played in Gloucester, you got dudes from Argentina, dudes from Romania. We had a dude from Romania who drank like plum alcohol? It's like 90% alcohol. Ooh. Yeah. So Romania is like the most alcoholic country in the world.
God damn,
So we got Romanians, you got Argentinians, you got Samoans, you got South Africans, you got people from all over the world who have obviously lived a whole different life growing up. How do you relate to them all? You know what I mean? How do you get them all on the same page? And when you're doing with these organizations, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. But obviously some teams have got it right, like Penrith.
Yeah.
But Penrith is really like locally based. Like they grow their players.
They've been like from what I understand on a club level and junior side, they've been great for the longest time. Like if you look back to the early 2000s, they had that duo, the Hair Bears, of Joe Ngalavau and Tony Politua. Yes. And so they won that season, but that was part of the come up. Like they were always on the edge of being as great as they are now. I think it took a couple of changes at the top for them to find that switch. Because remember, Ivan Cleary was the former Warriors coach, successful with the Warriors, but he went and took his son over there, and then they were almost keeping him, and then he came back. Well, they did cut him, and then they got him back, and then so it's interesting because that you talked about the idea of like when are you gonna let a coach fail? When we talked about Silala Mapusua, it's like they let him fail, and then he came back with all that knowledge. 3 in a row, and it looks like 4 in a row coming up. And so, but for the longest time, Penrith as its own competition and the club grades, they've been amazing, and a big part of that is because of the Pacific community over there.
And they seem to not have a problem with team culture. And culture, and it helps when you are growing with a lot of locally based players, who have been in the system at a young age before being in the pros, and you see Luai, Cleary, you see them in their uniforms when they're like 14 or 15.
Kids.
So they've all grown up together. You got your system.
The Warriors had that.
yeah, you've got your culture. Well, I don't see many in the system who've come through.
They used to,
right?
yeah.
Right now, this team right now, it's a lot of foreigners, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, a lot of like Kiwis that have played overseas, and there's a there is a lot of Australian players in there too.
And last year, was that the first season for the coach?
It was the first.
Okay.
Yeah. Former Penrith coach as well.
But not former Penrith head coach, eh?
No,
so this is his first time in the big seat.
Yeah.
He was successful, massively successful, and so now it's a bit challenging. So maybe it's just something he's got to go through in order to find that next level.
Yeah.
It's to sort of fail a bit, but I don't think they should be too demoralized with how it's going at the moment.
Yep.
Maybe if you compare it and you start, expecting them to win all the time, yeah. But I think round 9, round 10 at the moment. Yeah. Still got over 10 games left. There's still enough time to turn it around. Yeah.
About 14 games, I think.
Yeah.
24 rounds. Yeah.
And I'd rather come right towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
I went through that. Our team, we were shit halfway through. Had crisis meetings and that. All the way, won a trophy, lost in a semi and another one, but it's a better way. Find yourself in all the failures in that early, because it's a long season, man. There's injuries. Other teams are going to have injuries.
Yeah.
And I think they're all right.
I like that you brought up Penrith, because they've leaned heavy on the local, but then keep in mind Sydney's built for rugby league. It's traditionally, for the most part, rugby league. They've got other sports like AFL and rugby union, which is, I don't know where Australia is at rugby union, but rugby league has always been strong. Especially, it's seen as like your it's like your ghetto game, because obviously over in Australia it's private school rugby. It's quite I mean it is like
England like private school play rugby. Yeah.
The rugby league has always been the fun sport for a lot of the kids in the neighborhood. So, but it's also like it's probably the most entertaining sport in Australia.
Yeah, it's winning. But like, how do Penrith still win? Like, they've lost a lot of players, eh? Like, Kikau, I remember when they lost Kikau, I was like, oh man, they're gonna go backwards now.
And they just fill another player comes through.
And then people, because they keep the spine.
Yeah. But I thought New Zealand was like that, or the Warriors for a long time, because of, like, we had Sean Johnson's era. All those players are gone now, but there was that kind of period of time where the Warriors were dominant in the junior system.
Yes. It never manifested
itself.
Yeah. And again, they won the junior system again this year. The talent's here, and all of the clubs go to New Zealand and pick up the 15-year-old, the 14-year-old,
That's right.
high school rugby players. They still do it. Melbourne picked up a Warriors player from last year, and he's killing it. The Tongan guy in the
the second. What's his name? I know the one. Katoa.
He's awesome, and that tends to happen. Like, any Warriors player who leaves Warriors goes to the club and is amazing. Like,
what is it? Why is that?
Man, I think it's lifestyle. It's getting out of your comfort zone, and
it is a bit of like being detached from what's comfortable.
Yes, it is.
And that's like it probably, like, I'm wondering if it probably doesn't play much. But when I look at the Warriors, and this is like a shit thing for me to say because I'm not the fittest person, but sometimes when I look at their play, I'm like, it looks like they're being like, I don't want to say lazy. I want to say like they're just too comfortable. They just look like they're not attacking as, you know what I mean?
No, you can just say it, bro. These are professionals. You expect them to be in condition. Like, they have to be conditioned. And
I think they're fit. Like, you're talking about the risk, the Lomax going for the ball. Yeah. It looks like they're not wanting to go for the ball.
Right. The desperation, right?
Yeah.
They look desperate. I was watching the Lakers, man. It was fucking hard time watching them. You know, the Nuggets, every game they're up by over 10.
Yeah.
Every game. One game they're up by over 20. And they fucking lose it in the fourth quarter every game. Like, that is conditioning. Like, if you constantly are getting big leads and you can't finish a game, that's conditioning.
Right.
Like, when you're watching the Warriors, you're down, you're losing the game, like, you sort of like, fucking
go
urge it, run this shit, and I don't know, but that's sometimes as a fan, you're like just frustrated and you think things are easier than what they are because
that's right.
Because we're all sitting there.
Who am I? Sitting in front of my computer.
Nah. But hey, I don't think anyone's gonna jump off the wagon anytime soon.
Oh no, I said at the start, I still think they're a top 4 team. I still think they can make it. It's just and And when I say long time, fam, like, so my brothers and sisters worked at the very first Warriors game in the hot dog freaking truck. Like my first job in the industry was like holding cords for Sky TV, for the camera guys. Like I'm embedded in this. Like I've been around. It's just, it's demoralizing seeing this happen because it's a thing that happens every year. That's why I wanted to like pick apart like what makes an organization click. Penrith, they've clicked. And they've stayed clicked.
They're still clicking.
They're still clicking.
Here we see it. Click, 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 click.
Yeah, just a new guy comes in and it's like, okay, this guy's the next big thing. And it's like, all right.
But they keep the main players there, you know.
Yeah.
That I think Edwards, you know, when they announced his pay, people were like, hey, why you pay him so much?
Yeah. Well,
he's showing it.
He's top of the Dally M, so he's like going for that MVP. Sucks for the Warriors. Hopefully they get next week. But you brought up the Wahines. Or the Warriors women's team. Some good news because they're kicking ass. But let's talk about this. The revival of the Warriors in NRLW side is set to see several rugby stars follow Tyler King's example. This is an article in the New Zealand Herald which details a lot of rugby union women's players. And if you look at women's rugby, it's massive. It's doing massive things around the world. And a lot of these players are looking at the Warriors. Yeah.
So next year, 2025, the New Zealand Warriors are going to have a women's team in the women's NRL, which is mean, bro. And I was reading about Honey. What was it? You didn't hear it? Smiler. She's the commentator on the NRL.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, she was saying that her phone's blowing up. Like, there's a lot of players who are asking where they can...
Honey Smiler.
Yeah, where they can get involved in that and play. And how cool is that, man? So, like, New Zealand Ferns, the Super Rugby Aupiki players, New Zealand Sevens players, they're all interested in joining the New Zealand Warriors women's team, man. That'll be something special. And, like, I still think that New Zealand Sevens have the best women's rugby player in the world, and Portia Woodman. Like, she's unbelievable. And how cool would that be if she like
became
played?
Warriors? Yeah.
And this is one good thing that the Warriors men's organization should be proud of. Like, I think a lot of it is because of the reputation and the success that they had last year, and you see everybody supporting them, and it created a massive buzz around the country. I think. That's sort of rubbed off, I reckon, and more people want to join any types of Warriors organization, especially the women's, and to create that same energy, that same euphoria, but the good thing about the article was the money. They want money. And
talk about it.
And that's it.
So are they getting paid more?
So apparently, according to that article, the New Zealand Rugby have contracted a few women to between $50,000 and $70,000. Yeah, so that's how much they're getting paid to be in the Black Ferns. Even the New Zealand Sevens set up a paying that amount as well. And comparison to the women's NRL, it's more, right? Only by a bit.
It says the NRLW salary cap for 2025 season is around 1.4 million Australian. Right. Most players will be paid between 44 to 55. But that's Australian dollar. They're encouraged to work part-time or study with no team training.
Between 8 and 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
How cool is that? So in their contracts, they're not allowed to have any team training between 8 a.m. and 4 o'clock. So you have all that space and you have all that time to do whatever you want. You're going to get another job or you can study. Increase your ability to earn later on. And the other good thing is, being based in Australia, I mean, just the women's NRL, you get a foothold in that economy and that society if you want to move over, so. But already there's the, what's her name? Is it Tyler King in the front?
Yep.
Yeah, she's a New Zealand contracted player who has in her clause that she's allowed to go play in the NRL. So she's able to play both, and get paid by both. Yeah. How cool is that? So, the Aupiki season is only, maybe 2 months.
Man,
You know?
options.
Yeah, options. And then you got the Black Ferns, maybe about a month or two. Then you can go play NRL, be about a month or two, because that's only 11 games. So it's really good earning potential, travel potential for women. You know, they can earn up to 150 and you get to travel and you get some time to study,
Yeah.
you know, to learn plumbing or whatever, or
work.
have a second job.
Yeah.
And the organization is you're allowed to be employed by the organization for other work.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really cool. There's massive options here for women to economically, to travel.
That's the good thing about from what I know about the, I guess the NRL system, is that even if you're like in the reserve grade, the club will hook you up with jobs.
Yes.
And they'll put you onto some good jobs with some good money. And just economically, these ladies are going to go there and they're going to work like 4 or 5 hours at a job and whatever capacity is and earn like $30 to $40
Oh, bro,
an hour. And then just, you know what I mean? It's the economy there is so good. Well, I mean, a lot of people there will tell you it's shit, but in comparison to New Zealand,
yeah, man. That's why everyone's moving over there. And the other option is to study. And I wish I did more of that. I had the time. I wish I did a lot of trades. I wish I did that in my off time. You know, and these players have that luxury. And not just they have that, it's contracted. So that means that their club are conscious of the fact that they want them, you know, will push them into, hey, how about doing this with your time?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you want. You want players who are continuing to learn, who are continuing to stay busy and keep their mind active. You don't want players who are at home playing PlayStation for 6 hours.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise.
It's one of those things you got to take advantage of it, eh? Like,
time is everything, man.
I don't know if you're like, if you were to study, would your club pay for it?
Yeah, I actually had it in my clause and I just didn't do it.
Yeah. I had
really
a friend
bad.
who was reserve grade for NRL. He's a content creator now. I won't say his name, but he got them to pay for all his studies.
Yes, you can.
And so he went in for like 2 years. He went and got his papers done. He studied at like the most prestigious film school in Australia, and now he's earning big bucks as a content creator and just turned the NRL career over. So I saw that and I was like, man, that's awesome that they paid for your schooling.
Yes, that's at retire before you retire. Like, you know, a lot of people will finish their rugby and that and then go and study, but you can actually do it at the same time. So you finish this and you go straight into earning something else, or you start your earning capacity, or you can just do shit around the house. You know, you do your plumbing trades and you do carpentry in your downtime. You ain't got any problems at home. You know, that might be your reason for doing something, but it's really awesome the setup that they have for women.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge, though, a friend of mine would go to the New Zealand Rugby Union meetings about allocating funding, okay? And they all fight. New Zealand, the Māori, the women's, the All Blacks, you have to fight for your funding in the meeting. It's literally, we need this amount because we're Indigenous people. So you have to actually just fight for your funding and then they allocate. So I think a lot of the funding that comes through is like from the All Blacks, man. Yeah. So, and it's really important that this is why it's really important to be successful and to keep the main thing, because the All Blacks fight for payment when they play at Twickenham, because they get paid the millions and billions, they're able to fund all these other projects, women's rugby, Māori rugby, age group rugby, and then not forever, you know, I'm sure, I no doubt the women's game is going to get bigger, at least the same, in terms of earning potential worldwide, global, and all of this. It's growing in every sport. So, but because the All Blacks earn so much money, they're able to fund so many things. And this is why it's important, like Samoan Rugby Union, the board, got to fight for this shit, you know? Just fight for the share that we are entitled to, and all these other areas in our rugby and society will benefit. Because the on-flow benefit from a lot of these women earning all of this money, it's going to go to their families, it's going to go to their villages, it's going to go to their greater community. So it's massive.
Good on the women's game. And to be honest, I remember, what was it, a good couple of years ago, and we went to the NRL 9s. I forgot what year this was. And the biggest kind of pops from the crowd was when the women's were playing. And it wasn't just because they're a woman. It was because they were freaking beasts. And they were killing it. And there's something special different about the women's game when they hit each other, when they run past each other. There's something different about it. So that's exciting. That's exciting for the women in rugby league, and also women in rugby looking for another option.
Just keep in mind that, you know, the CTE and the brain injuries and all that shit, that also applies to the women's game. So, you know, everything that happens in the men's game, you know, look into it injury-wise and all of that shit.
I wonder if the drinking culture is the same. Good segue. Good segue.
I don't think it is, I don't think it is. I don't think they're stupid.
Women are not as stupid as us, right?
No, I don't think they have those same cravings that dudes have, man.
Drink.
Fuck, did you see that one? Who's that dude again?
Billy Vunipola. So he got so drunk. This English, he's a Konga, Tongan boy. He's one of the brothers, the Vunipola brothers in the English team. But he was tasered. Didn't look like he felt a thing by Spanish police. But ever been tasered before?
Hell no.
Ever been so drunk that you'd confront police? No. Well, I don't think he confronted police. I think he was just really, really drunk, and they were looking for a way to stop him. He admits that he doesn't know when to stop drinking when he's had a few. I've been there. It's okay.
We have been there.
We've been there.
We're still there.
It's interesting because he's like one of the, I guess, more senior players, right?
Yeah.
So drinking culture in rugby, and I know we've kind of talked about this prior, but what's your thoughts on it, Roos?
Yeah, it's big, eh? Just on that incident alone, just be careful when you're in a foreign country, guys. Like, you don't know their rules, you don't know their laws. Drinking culture in rugby is big. You know, England have a massive drinking culture outside of rugby anyway. They say it's one of the most alcoholic places in the world. You know, on a Monday, it's normal practice to go home and have a beer. You know, you just do that daily. That's just a normal thing. They've got a massive culture over there. The drinking culture is big. The rugby culture, bro, we were doing double headers. Like, you drink after the game, wake up, and you start drinking when you wake up. And I'd never seen that before until I went over there. And
and you guys, what is that, the day off after the game, eh?
Yeah, the day off after the game, especially if it's a bank holiday, because then Monday's off. And so you wake up on Sunday morning and you just start drinking again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know Australia, like, I know the NRL guys are massive like that too.
They drink?
Know? Yeah.
They do a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
They do a lot of things. They drink through the nose.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like men. I don't think the women are going to be anywhere as stupid.
Well, we haven't heard anything.
No.
Yet.
Yeah.
It's just
They say there's an increase in people not drinking. Like, that percentage is increasing a lot more. And I know a lot more younger rugby players and athletes are not drinking.
Yeah.
Like, they're focused really hard on what they want out of rugby, and I think that's awesome. I lived with a guy who never drank, and he was with me for like 5 years, and so it was me, the alcoholic, and Johnny Whamatuinu never had a drop or anything, like really disciplined. And I think about the amount of money he saved. He must have saved so much because I spent so much shit. And you read about the alcohol costs. It's not just the drinking, it's the loss of production, the hangovers, the health costs. You know, and they reckon in New Zealand it's up to like maybe $8 billion in costs in terms of health.
Wow.
Yeah, heart disease, all of that shit. Liver failure, you know, the effects on the body that alcohol has in the long term, the psychological effects, dementia, depression, stress, you know, because you can't tolerate shit, you're tired and hungover. It's a lot, bro. So, you know, I look back and I think, oh, it's not worth it, but then I'll go home this weekend and have a drink, so fuck it.
But it's interesting that you highlighted that in like a newer... Sorry, we've got some gangbangers outside. In your, like today, for example, I think you're right, like there seems to be less kind of, less of a drinking culture. Like it exists, but I remember watching the MMT about 3 or 4 years ago, and they were out partying. There was like 10 of them all on Twitch playing video games, spending their evening there. So there seems like if it's not video games, it seems like there's like a lack of wanting to do that. And I'm wondering how much of that, well, I think a lot of that is about awareness, right? Like it's like, man, I can drink when I want. It doesn't have to be every weekend. I've got so many other vices like video games. I've got social media. I've got the digital space. So it feels like if it's if drinking was the original thing to kind of get people together, I think you're right in looking at it, because I feel like a lot more younger people you'll see them more on TikTok Live than you would see them at the pub.
Yeah, and that's great. Like I really hope there's more, people doing that. To be honest, I drank a lot because I was really insecure with myself. Yeah. I feel like when you get drunk and that, you got you can sort of like let loose a bit, Yeah. You know how they say it's like confidence in a cup and shit.
Is that what it was for a lot of rugby men that you played with?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the drinking culture, so after every game, even when I wasn't a professional, after the games at university, court sessions were massive, and it was always like, the windmills and the flaming assholes, all those games, the flaming arsehole, I'll just explain. So you stick some toilet paper in between your butt cheeks, and the 4 who have been selected got to stand up, and you got to scull your jug, and they light the toilet paper before it burns your butt, and it's called flaming assholes. So there was heaps of that shit, and there was heaps of, you don't drink? Oh, peer pressure. There was heaps of that shit. And no social media. I hadn't met anyone who went, nah, I don't drink at that time. I never knew that was a thing. Yeah. I grew up around a lot of parties. My uncle used to throw parties a lot. He worked at Liquorland. Shit, now it's all coming back to me. He worked at Liquorland. So
there's a dent on this box. Take it home.
Yeah, so we used to go and get these remember KGBs?
Oh, hell yeah.
And tattoos and all of that shit. We used to get boxes and that for free. So
would you say it's more of a cultural thing? The drinking aspect that's kind of hindered?
It's a rugby cultural thing, but in terms of South Auckland, it's also a target. Like, they got fucking liquor stores next to liquor stores. And
store, bakery, takeaway, liquor store, bakery, takeaway.
There's one place, there's a liquor store next to a liquor store. What the fuck? But there are these awesome groups, I forgot the names, who are out there protesting. Protesting I think there's one at Wickman and there's one on Vine Street. Yeah. And they were protested by principals, by the neighborhood, by the police, by doctors. They said they should not have their license renewed, but the council renewed the license. Okay, so there's the culture. There's a rugby culture of drinking. Then there's a deliberate targeting of, bottle stores in our communities. There's that. There was an issue because one of the members who issue out the licenses, she's also a lawyer for many of the breweries and the alcohol businesses. So there's a conflict of interest. She wants more bottle stores for her clients. Okay, and I think it's what's
money in her pocket.
Fraser, I think, like Tia Fraser. And there was a massive issue about her being on the council. And you know what? She was picked. She was picked by Josephine Bartley to be on the fucking commission. So it's like, what the fuck? And there's an interview, there's a thing by Bartley saying, well, had I known that information, I wouldn't have picked her. It's like, fucking hell. So this lady who's issuing out licenses, despite of all the protests by these South Auckland groups saying, no, there's too many liquor stores here in Mangere, she got the position from a Pacific person to fucking destroy the Pacific community. But it's so fucking, there's also
that targeting thing that's always, I've always found it weird driving around a primary school out South Auckland and right next to it is a liquor land. And I'm like, so the first thing you want the kids to see when they leave is drunk people?
Yeah, and these things aren't there by accident. Popeyes knew where to fucking set up.
Yeah.
Popeyes knew where they're gonna get queues. South Auckland, these liquor stores know where they're gonna get queues. Yeah, and know what and alcohol is massive. It's not just like fun and all that. Like, it is anti-revolutionary. Like, you drink alcohol enough, you won't do shit.
Yeah.
I'm tired, I can't be fucked. It's expensive. Like, You know, remember, colonizers use alcohol as a weapon. Like, they wanted indigenous people, here, go there, fuck yourselves up. Here you go.
Well, they do it now. They've done it in Australia.
They do it now. Here, go fuck yourselves up.
Yeah.
And I'll be one of them. Yeah, thanks. And then I was looking at who owns Steinlager and who owns that shit, and it's Coca-Cola owns that, and Heineken owns one. You know, Lion Breweries and DB Breweries, one is owned by Heineken, and I was like, I'm never drinking Heineken because Bill Gates has invested in Heineken. Fuck, the New Zealand breweries are there. Oh, I'm not drinking this one, and Coke owns this one. Oh, shit. Like, fucking hell. And you know
I
how,
just want to have a good time.
Yeah, you know how like every single food and drink is owned by like 5 companies in the world? It's like, oh, shit. But drinking culture, anyway, we haven't solved anything, but there's a lot of alcohol culture. Good on you if you are able not to take and drink that shit, man.
Yeah.
That is awesome. You know, I feel like I can't, you know, every Saturday, especially if I work outside, I got to have a few. I have to. But,
it's like a relax in a sense, right? Like,
yeah, but other people, like you say, Twitch is relaxing for them.
Yeah.
You know, if you can find something that's not destructive, that's relaxing for you, fuck, that's the way to go. You know, especially if it's constructive. If building your social media, building your business is relaxing, man, that's the way to go, man. That's the way to go.
Was that what it was for a lot of
Cover. And thank God for cover. Thank God you say that. I buy a lot of cover. When my family comes over, they bring a lot of cover. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably be worse. I would probably be worse. So I have cover like 3 times a week. You know,
True.
You know, and I'm old, like I feel better as well, muscle and that, but I reckon, because sometimes I sneak in a beer on Monday, I reckon it will be worse, man. But there are organic options out there. Maybe home brew, that'd be organic, you know, ferment your own. That's how, like, you know, Samoans back in the days, they used to ferment their fruit.
Yeah.
You know, to get their highs and shit.
Have you had tuilangen, or how do you say it?
Freddy's
alcohol?
The tuilangi gin.
Yeah. Is it tuilangi gin or is it?
No, but I like that. You know, if you like something so much, invest in it, you know?
Yeah.
If you smoke on the side, why not own the company you're smoking? You know, like invest in what you like. There's a lot of billionaires who invest in destructive things. They just don't take their product, you know? Like the drug dealer ain't smoke their shit. They just sell it. They just push it. So, man, invest in the thing that you like. If you like drinking, fucking invest in it. And that's one thing I learned in England. Like, they were buying shares at the back of the bus. Like, they were always trading shares and shit. You know?
There you go, Billy Vunipola, invest in tasers, bro.
Yo, it's a business, bro.
Invest in tasers, dogs. There you go.
That's a great idea, man. And that's how you do it, bro. Oh, that's mean.
Well, that's us for episode 19. Thank you from the Offside Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.